Most CRNAs don't get involved in state or national organizations until years into practice. But if you decide to get involved during your training, it can completely change the trajectory of your CRNA career and how you see this profession. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Kevin Chem, a new graduate CRNA from Augusta University who got involved in the profession early and has continued to build momentum. Kevin was one of the original podcast hosts of Grade One View, the sister podcast of Beyond the Mask. He has been actively involved with the AANA through committee work focused on membership and wellness. You may also recognize him as the face of the mid-year assembly promotional video that was shared within the CRNA Mentor community. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how he got started, what it actually looks like to get involved at a national level, and how he plans to impact the profession in the future. Welcome to the CRNA Mentor Podcast here, Kevin.
Hey, Tyler. Thanks for having me. Happy to be on.
Absolutely. Before we went on air here, you're talking about dusting off the microphone here, and I'm happy to have a fellow podcast host for the first time on the CRNA Mentor Podcast.
Absolutely. We both have our fancy setups here. We're going to have a great episode. I'm excited.
I don't know. You're the expert. I'm the novice here trying to figure this out. So I'm going to lean on you a little bit during this episode to kind of carry the momentum here through. And both of us learned that we say absolutely too much. So let's count it here and see how many times we say
Turn your absolutely counters on, everybody. Let's see how this goes.
Kevin, so I want to kick this off. First, congratulations on passing boards, on becoming a CRNA, and especially for all your work within the AANA here. But I want to take us back kind of early in your journey. When did you first decide that being a CRNA was the career for you?
Yeah, man, I had a weird upbringing growing up. I'm family. I'm the son of refugees from Cambodia. And it's I grew up with not that many role models in academia. My cousins all kind of found jobs that were more meeting odds and ends, if that makes sense. My parents both just worked minimum wage jobs. And I kind of knew, like, all right, we gotta figure this out. I'm not doing this again. And my parents were really instrumental in making sure that it happened too. But in high school, I was still kind of all over the place. I would run a lot, but not in track and field, like not with the high school. It was just me in the woods with myself. And, I met a few friends out there, and I ran ultra marathons, and I was doing a lot of fun stuff on the side. And through those ultra marathons, I started volunteering at aid stations. So you're 25 miles in the middle of the forest. There's this like tent, and it's like, us volunteers, we can help you. You need a Band-Aid, you need some electrolytes, that kind of thing. So I kind of had an inkling that I was going to be a nurse eventually. Mm-hmm. When I was 15, I had to have a very minor surgery, and that was the first time I ever was involved with a CRNA. So this guy, I was very nervous, and this guy came in with a stature that was just calming. I felt confident in his arms, his metaphorical arms, not his real arms. I felt confident under his care. Sure. He kneeled down to me. He talked to me at eye level. I couldn't see him because I didn't have my contacts in, and I was just like, I'm a -7 or something. And I just can't see. But he really made me feel like it was going to be okay. And beyond that, he did things he probably didn't have to do. Like he took my IV bag and walked me to the bathroom and walked me back. And, even in my verse-headed state, it's something that I remember. So I knew that, once I became like 16, 17, I started to realize that, I needed some insurance for my career. I needed a meal ticket to kind of get out of the whole, the family curse of working minimum wage jobs. And that meal ticket was going to be an associate's degree of nursing from a community college. So, I hunted for that associate's degree. Right out of high school, I went to community college. I got it right away. And once I had that associate's degree, it was kind of it was a sigh of relief. Like, okay, we're not going to make minimum wage for the rest of our lives, and I still to this day advocate for the fact that, a entry-level nursing degree is like so pivotal, and it can be so life-changing for a lot of people, for anybody really. And during that process, CRNA was in the back of my mind. And once I graduated, I was like, we're going to go full steam ahead with this. So, I worked as a nurse, and I took some general chemistry classes, and I got there pretty quickly too, just because I knew it's what I wanted to do. And very happy with my career. I'm a man who kind of analyzes all different career paths, and from what I understand, this one is a pretty good one. So I'm very happy I'm here.
Yep. No. At what point, Kevin, were you in a kind of geographic location where you, with your associate's degree, you could go into the ICU, or did you have to get your BSN first, or when did you make your way into the ICU?
Yeah, so actually, no. So I grew up in Minnesota. This was like very pre-COVID. Like I think I graduated 2019
Mhm.
when, all the cool kids were still in the ICU and they didn't have an outpouring of shortage. So I wanted to live life a little bit. Even getting like a hospital job in the cities was terrifyingly hard. So I
Okay.
ended up, driving 2 hours north to Duluth, Minnesota, on the shores of Lake Superior. And I got
Mhm.
like a entry level, it was a general medicine unit, which I really, to this day, swear to God, don't really know what that means. I think it's med surge without the surge. But really, it was mostly just like, psych patients, infections, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
So I did that for like a year. And after that year, that kind of gained me enough momentum to get into this like progressive care ICU mentorship program back in St. Paul, Minnesota. So my real experience was like a year med surge, and then like probably a year and a half before I got into CRNA school of ICU, and then 2 by the time I was an actual a registered nurse anesthetist. So that was kind of my outlook. But then again, I still was one of the youngers in the class, just because you can
Mhm.
get that ADN sooner than somebody can get a BSN.
Right.
So
Right.
while my colleagues were still just out of regular college years, I had already been a nurse for a year. So it kind of gave me that leg up. Not that it's a competition, but it's a fun hack.
Sure.
Looking back, I probably would have just moved states and found an ICU job somewhere. But hindsight's 50-50. And I enjoyed all the experiences that I had.
Sure. And that's something, as I talk to mentees,
Hmm.
they offer kind of a similar perspective, is like, I can't get into the ICU. I'm like, well,
Hmm.
do you have to stay where you're at, or can you, go somewhere else and kind of leverage those opportunities that you can find maybe in an area that's not as desirable to live?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
places, you can get jobs there a bit easier. So uh,
Absolutely. You're gonna have to bite the bullet a little bit sometimes. If you
sure.
really want this, you're gonna have to move. That's just something that's a stark reality of the job and how things go.
Hmm. Now, Kevin, one of the big reasons, I wanted to bring you on the podcast,
Mhm.
aside from all your work with Grade One View and speaking with you at annual Congress, but
Mhm.
was there a moment where you had this kind of mindset shift from just getting accepted to CRNA school to be really one that contributes to this profession? Specifically with everything that you've been involved with within the AANA, Grade One View, everything on a national level.
Yeah, man. So for me, it was like, um, it's really hard how schools do this, and my professors are going to listen. I would say this to their face, but like it's hard how we do the whole like let's volunteer a committee member, because it really is only one classmate, and we elected our people like 2 days in, so we didn't even know each other. So I did not even really get a chance to be a GANA rep. Um, and I was like, well, I'm still going to do something, even if I have to do it by myself. So
Hmm.
I sort of meandered over to the AANA committees. It didn't, I knew at the time it didn't have to be like a political thing. It just had to be something I was passionate about.
Sure.
Mental health, wellness, that's something that I've always been a part of. I actually, when I was a trail runner and I really had a kind of a following back there, as a kid, I started a podcast about mental health and breaking the
Oh,
stigma of mental health. So I was like 17,
wow.
16, 17, and I was interviewing trail runners. Especially ultra marathon runners, there's usually something going on there. It's a running joke in the no pun intended, the running community, that there's some kind of addiction or something like that. So I got to interview a lot of people and talk to a lot of people about mental health and trail running, substance use disorders, that sort of thing, and how people have pivoted from, recovering from, some sort of addiction to now being like
Mhm.
world renowned trail runners.
Right.
So I saw the wellness committee and I was like, that's what I'm going to do, because I'm actually passionate about it. And I can actually sort of make a dent, and I will be present in that committee. So that's sort of where I started, and the rest, honestly, the rest just kind of came.
Right.
Yeah, that's sort of the story there.
I love that, and that's something that is so critical that I tell people to kind of key in on is
Mhm.
find something that you're passionate about,
Yeah,
whatever that may be. To try and draw a straight line from trail running to being on the wellness committee in the
yeah,
AANA at a national level does not seem like a super straight line, but here you are, and that's something that I think the more people that can dial in and get exposed to these different things that they can be
yeah.
passionate about, that's half the battle. And
Mhm.
I love that part of your story. That's really cool.
Yeah, man. It's just like, and I always tell people too, you can tell I'm in committees, I've been in a few committees with different, I guess organizations and such, and you can tell when even a full-fledged CRNA is just kind of there to be there, and
Mhm.
it's weird, and we can all tell. So don't do
Mhm.
that. Find something that actually find something that actually piques your interest.
Sure, sure. Now, Kevin, you mentioned seeking out this committee membership with the AANA. Did you have any help doing that, or is that just something you set out on your own? And you're like, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to be part of the AANA wellness committee.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll kind of throw it back to my professors at Augusta. Again, I think most of them there are. I mean, one, all of them almost got elected to be fellows of the AANA. They're
Hmm.
very committed folks.
That's great.
We got Reed Halterman who does a lot of political stuff. My professor Louisa Martin now, after me, she's on this year's wellness committee, and as well as Dr. Elizabeth Gay. But we had Dr. Laura Yates actually start a wellness committee for our class. Just with all the mental health issues that resident registered nurse anesthetists go through, I think she sort of realized that it would be helpful for the class. So,
Hmm.
we would put things together, little get-togethers. I did study sessions for classmates too, so we could kind of bounce ideas off of each other and study, obviously. And that's what sort of kind of pointed me in that direction. Another thing is that none of my faculty had any problem with me doing anything extracurricular. They were very excited, and they got me. They wrote any letter of recommendation, any permission slip they needed to write. They were there for it. And
Great.
from my experience, from what I've heard, that's not always the case. So
No. Mm-mm.
I have to give kudos to my professors, and where I came from, Augusta University. Again, very very happy that I went there.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Now, Kevin, what was kind of the first step for you? Did you go to a conference in terms of the ANA? Did you go to one of the conferences?
Mm.
Was it this wellness committee? What was kind of your first touch point with the National Association?
Yeah, I like going to committees, but I like going to them even more when I have some kind of job. There's definitely a
Hmm.
sense of belonging there.
Sure.
With the committees, when you first get in, the first meeting, I'm sure, as you know, is at annual Congress. So, it
Hmm.
was very exciting to be like, all right, yeah, I'm going to annual Congress because I have a meeting with the wellness committee. So
Right.
that was my first thing. So I signed up for the committee, and then I went to annual Congress. And
Gotcha.
it was just nice to have like a job there. And I mean, I met you last year at the booth over there.
Right.
So yeah, that was my first time going to committee meetings and of sort. And yeah, I go like every year now. So I won't be making
Hmm.
mid year, but I'll be going to annual in Boston. And in like 5 weeks, I'm going to the Brisbane for the International Federation of
Oh
Nurse
man, that's
Anesthetists.
great.
Yeah, yeah, very exciting.
I was trying to sell my wife on that one. She's like, well, we have four young kids and going all the way out to Brisbane. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
not exactly
yeah,
doable at
yeah.
this stage of our lives, but
Yeah,
in the
I'm
future.
still living the single income, no kids life right now. So it's very,
Right.
again, even for me, it was like this is kind of a big trip. So I
Yeah.
can't imagine what you had to go through trying to sell that.
Yeah. No, it didn't go very far.
It
So,
didn't go far.
um, Kevin, what would you say to someone who feels like they're not like ready to get involved?
Mm.
Not just speaking on a national level, but even a state level. What would you tell these people, especially those who are in school?
Yeah, so there's not ready and not wanting to, and just again, like I was saying, like there's not ready because you want to and you just feel nervous, and then there's not ready because you just don't want to do it. If you just don't want to do it or you're not actually interested, don't steal a spot from somebody else, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
if you're not ready and you just like you're scared, my kind of mantra going through life is to just apply and see what happens.
Hmm.
Yeah, to be
Yep.
honest with you, I mean,
Sure.
I have applied, do things scared, just do them though. Applying to nursing school, applying to committees, taking the GRE, taking the CCRN, applying to the wellness committee. I was very scared. I did not think I was going to get anything, but I just did it anyways, and I just saw what was going to happen. It's serious, but it really is not that serious. Just try, just see what happens. Just get the
Hmm.
ball rolling. If you need mentorship, reach out. I've never like, I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure it's happened, but I've never had someone not want to help me when I've asked them for help in terms of
Yep.
mentorship and that kind of thing, because it's a micro organization within a huge organization, and we're excited to have people on our committees.
Hmm. Kevin, how about I want to talk a little bit about Grade One View, that podcast. It's
Mhm.
something I've turned into a quite the podcast listener. I absolutely love Beyond the Mask. And then when
Yeah.
you guys came out with Grade One View, I was like, this is perfect. I mean, this is so many of my mentees, I'm directing them towards that podcast because you guys had so much insight. And quite honestly, I published an episode this week that is it was a nurse anesthesia resident that
Mhm.
I said right in the intro that I'm bringing in all these leaders within the AANA, people that I
Mhm.
really are huge inspirations to me, but I know that many aspiring CRNAs, they look to our nurse anesthesia residents, our SRNAs, and they're like, that
Mhm.
is the next step here for me, and
Yeah.
that is who I want to be like. And when you guys had that podcast, I'm like, this is perfect because it's these
Yeah.
individuals that you can connect and really share kind of the same pains.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about Grade One View and how you became part of that original cast.
Yeah. So I mean, this is really where like I guess connections and joining committees. It's really where it starts to pay dividends.
Hmm.
We had some of the AANA staff, Alyssa Rojo, Becky, and Becky as well. They sort of emailed us like, "Hey, do you guys as sort of the NAR residents of the committees, they were like, can you guys spread the word about this podcast, or this is a good opportunity?" I don't think they meant for me to apply, but I just did. Yeah. And, I already had, I was telling you earlier, I'm a nerd. I already had the podcast stuff already.
Yeah, yeah.
So, it was, I applied, I had the background, I had the connections already. We did our little mini interview with Sharon Pierce, Jeremy as well, and it went well, and I got it. And again, that it was never a connection of like they got me into it, but it's like they steered me this certain way because I'm part of
Hmm.
the committee. Yeah, I got it and I made it, and they enjoyed it, I enjoyed it, and it was a very sort of seamless transition for me. I know my peers though, they got emails from the AANA that it was going to happen though. So if you're a member of the AANA and you're checking your emails, there's
Hmm.
always little opportunities in those emails. They
Sure.
have a great staff out there kind of showing people like what you could be doing to get
Yep.
involved if you need ideas as well. So yeah, that was my way. It was a fun thing. I think they were a little concerned that I was doing too much, but I wasn't. It was great. I had fun.
That is my problem. I do too much, and my wife is the one that's like, "All right." That's
Yeah.
I was asking,
Yeah.
getting involved at the ANA. That's why I said to Michelle Canale after we went off
Mhm.
air, I'm like, Michelle, I'm like, I really want to get involved with the ANA. I'm just finding the right time with my four kids and all these different hats that I wear. But yeah, there's certainly something to be said about too much, especially while you're in school. You want to
Yeah.
ensure that you're not, taking away too much of your efforts for studying and passing boards, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, Kevin, how about one of the big things that you got to experience? I had just recently interviewed Matt Thaxton, and you said, "Oh yeah, I interviewed him too."
Mhm.
You meet so many great people, and you got to meet so many great people through this podcast. What did you learn about some of these conversations from some of these major leaders in our field?
Yeah, it really does. Like, the thing about a podcast is it sort of gives you an opportunity to ask someone to have a conversation with you in a non-weird way too.
Yes.
And they're usually going to say yes. So it's like,
Right.
oh, I've always wanted to meet, my boss, like Joe Rodriguez or whomever. It's like, oh, why don't we just ask him to be on our podcast, and then he'll talk to us, and it's a connection made. And we did a lot of episodes. We made a lot of connections. Uh,
Yep.
what I learned was that all of these people are just humans. And I know that's so weird, but like, I think folks don't realize when we see you at the annual Congress, sometimes it's like seeing a cartoon character, so actually just having a opportunity to have honest conversations with these people it was very refreshing. And it made it seem like it was possible to be in whatever role that they do, ANA president, member committee, whatever have you. It made it feel like it was possible, and it kind of brought an air of humility, as you will, to my opinions of our profession and the people within it. Now
Yep.
there are kind of flip sides too, because as grade one view gained traction, we were being watched kind of under a microscope by people.
Mhm.
And I think you see these CRNA Facebook pages, and some folks say some crazy stuff,
They
and it
do.
kind of hurts your feelings.
Sure.
Honestly, it kind of hurts your feelings.
Sure.
So it sort of realizes that like not everybody shares the same opinion with you, as
Mhm.
well.
Right. And that's, I mean, doing social media now for like my CRNA Mentor platform has been around for a little over 3 years. And same thing, you
Mm,
experience some
mhm,
people saying some things that are not super kind. But I like to frame everything as, is this in the best interest of our profession? Is this in
mm,
the best interest of the AANA? And I,
mhm,
when I set out to build this platform, I really wasn't super connected with the ANA. I
right.
had this idea of what I wanted to do and try and improve this profession and make it more accessible, kind of break the barriers of talking to CRNAs. And
Yeah,
as I learned more about the ANA, I'm like, this organization is incredible. Like this, they're
yeah,
doing all the things that I want to do, and like trying to align my values with the ANA's values. I think so long as you can approach it as with this perspective, as like this is for the collective good, and that
mhm.
is where I want to operate from. I think the haters they're gonna hate, right?
Yeah,
So
that's absolutely it. Yeah, and
yeah,
yeah, my challenge was, I think as a young person coming up, it was like just
sure.
reading every comment and being like, "Man, I hate this."
and,
And
and,
as you grow,
and
it
here,
gets better.
here's a word of the wise is don't read the
Yeah.
comments. That's what
Do
I
not
stopped
read the
reading. I stopped
comments.
reading the
Yeah,
comments, especially on
yeah.
TikTok a while ago. And it's one of those
Yes.
things that, I felt obligated to answer some of them, but it hurts though when it's
Yeah.
coming from, colleagues, right?
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Kevin, did podcasting change how you see your role as a CRNA?
I kind of would say so. I mean, in sort of a personal level, I think, folks, you move. I moved to a new city. I moved to Arizona, and it's people connect with you. They follow you on social media. All of a sudden, they want to ask about your podcast, and you sort of feel like a representation of the profession, because I'm working with like surgeons who have heard from circulators about it and that sort of thing. So
Uh-huh.
it adds a little bit of a pressure to it.
Sure.
Outside of that, I think really like after having talked to all these people, you realize it's being a nurse anesthetist is a lot more than a clock in, clock out job. There's just like,
Mhm.
like we've been talking about advocacy to be had. So my role as a CRNA is bigger than just the OR or pre-op or PACU.
Yep.
It keeps going, you know, really, I mean, as public figure, I don't want to call myself a public figure, but someone who's a CRNA on the internet,
Mhm.
there's a level of responsibility that you have to keep with yourself and professionalism, to maintain, because we really, as CRNAs, are representing our organization and our profession in itself. And unfortunately, with TikTok and Instagram, or fortunately, it's bigger out there.
And that's, I guess, going back to my original point about ensuring that your perspectives, that you're aligning certain ways. One of the things that I tell everyone is you always have to be professional,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
especially kind of being on this online stage, is anything you say could be taken out of context, and if
Yep.
as long as you mean it professionally, you don't have anything to worry about. So yeah, that's a good teaching point for anybody out there making content. But
Yeah. It's a
uh,
crazy world out there, man.
yeah. Kevin, you mentioned a couple times about some of this committee work that you've been
Mhm.
involved with between wellness, the membership committee. What kind of surprised you the most once you got inside ANA leadership? I know we touched on this a little bit about people being accessible and kind of
Mhm.
they're not these caricatures that you see at at these
Yeah.
conferences, but rather like real people. But is
Yeah.
there anything else that kind of stood out to you?
I don't think I realized how organized our organization was. No pun
Hmm.
intended. But there's a whole office in Chicago for our organization, full of a
Hmm.
bunch of people that are here for us, and making sure that things are staying aligned with the goals of the organization. I don't think I realized how like structured everything is. Right, all these
Hmm.
committees have workers, staff, that are making sure things are flowing correctly. There's always something going on in the background. They have people monitoring stuff. You just interviewed Matt. had no idea that that was happening at all. That there are people boots on the ground. We have a Washington office as well. Again, looking for the best of our interests. Like this is a there's levels to this organization. Not only like again at a state level, but at a national level, they are completely advocating for us in a very structured way. So your donations and your organizations are not, falling on deaf ears or wallets or whatever you want to say.
Mhm.
It's very much so that these are our livelihoods, and there are many people that know that and are advocating for us. So I guess I didn't realize the inner workings, the inner guts of the AANA, and all that goes into it. So you see it a little bit at conferences, a little bit on the website, but when you're really involved, you start to notice how serious it is, and you wanna be a part of it.
That's a good perspective. Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, Kevin, why should nurse anesthesia residents or CRNAs be concerned about or at least care about being involved within the ANA? I always tell people,
Mhm.
even if you can't get involved at all, you can't go to the conferences, you can't be part of committees. In the very least, be a member of the association
Yeah.
and pay your dues. But why should even people that are in school, why should they care?
Yeah, I think going to mid-year especially, you start to realize our profession can change basically with the stroke of a pen.
Hmm.
And I hate to operate out of fear. I think that's really not a great way to live life. But like when it comes to advocacy and stuff, it's like you don't realize until you see these yearly bills come in and all the infighting that goes behind them. Um, if you're not paying attention, things can get snuck in. Things can change immediately, and it can drastically change your day to day life, whether we like to admit it or not. That's just the way things work in I guess our country and in our world. So advocating and being involved isn't just for you; it's for everybody else too, which I guess
Hmm.
directly will involve you eventually and could change your practice. But I think that's sort of that's always been my elevator speech about that. I mean, here in Arizona, things did not look the way they did even 5 to 10 years ago, from what I've heard. And now we're out here, anesthesia groups owned by CRNAs practicing
Awesome.
independently within the
Yeah.
confines of Metro Phoenix. Unheard of.
Yeah.
Um,
Kevin, I want to talk a little bit about, and this is not doesn't have to be written in concrete, but I want to see, like, where do you see yourself in this profession as you continue to evolve as a CRNA? I mean, you're making big waves now, and you're just
yeah.
getting started. So where do you see kind of your role evolving in this profession?
Yeah, right now it's like having the humility as a new grad to realize I just need to sit down and go to work for a little bit. I
Okay.
think has been very pivotal for me. I'm really trying to make sure that I can kind of walk the talk, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm making sure that I'm at least in the first year or two that I'm just focusing on being a good CRNA. At the same time, though, I am involved with AANA, the association here in Arizona,
Great.
just a little bit. Doesn't have to be too much, right? I show up to the
Mhm.
meetings every month. Um, that being said, even outside of I guess the political landscape, I there's just kind of fun things that I've been looking into. With the Artemis 2 launch, it's like, what is aerospace anesthesia looking like? And we as an association, we've not looked at that. But I tell you, the other anesthesia associations have. So that's something I'm kind of want to delving
Interesting.
into. Um, the international landscape, I'm going to IFNA. That's something too that I do want to kind of get involved with as well. I'm going on vacations now. I've never done it before, and it's just cool. Whenever I go there, I'm like, can I be a CRNA here? What does anesthesia look like here? I'm very curious. So there's some inner workings happening. While of course staying involved with the wellness committee and the membership committee in particular. So
Yeah.
yeah,
How about let's take that out 5, 10 years from now? I know we're talking
yeah,
big. I mean, you're already talking big with the
yeah,
aerospace stuff, but
aerospace stuff.
but 5,
Yeah,
10 years, where do you
yeah.
see yourself?
It's kind of yeah, I guess kind of same idea. I'd like to be, again, we talk about national, international, but at a local level, I think I'm sick of traveling. I'm sick of moving for school and work. I want to stay here in Arizona and grow some roots, or
Mhm.
roots, however you say it, where you're from. And I could see myself doing some kind of leadership position. It's sort of the natural progression. But again, for now, I just want to make sure that I'm good at what I do and I can sort of back it up before I start doing all that stuff. But yeah, eventually that. I want to look into other stuff that our profession might not be tapping into yet. and then that international level too. I mentioned being from Cambodia, not me, my parents being from Cambodia, and there's many a CRNA out there. I think it's the main provider out there too. And Richard Henker with HVO, he goes out there. So I'm looking to do that eventually. Again, once I have the experience to back up what I want to do.
Yeah, and that's something that I've had this, blessing of talking to many aspiring CRNAs that are international nurses, and
Yeah.
and that has been a really special part of CRNA Mentor for me, and trying to help these individuals navigate from all over the world, trying to immigrate here to pursue this career, and that's certainly something in the future I would love to get involved with some sort of mission trip or some sort of international level. There's so many opportunities to learn about all these things that are out there that can really, everything's interconnected. And you start talking to people within the AANA. Jackie Rolls is the
Hmm.
founder of that organization. And when I was doing a podcast with Sharon Pierce,
Yeah.
she was texting on her phone, and all of a sudden, poof, Jackie Rolls showed up in the chair next to me. And we were talking about, some of these aspiring CRNAs from, internationally. And
That's
so we had a little
awesome.
conversation, but there's so much out there that you can get involved with. And yeah, that's really cool that you're interested in some of that
Yeah.
international help as well. Kevin, I want to get into some rapid fire questions here. All right.
Yeah.
So
All right.
let's get fun before we kind of wrap this up. So one thing that every nurse anesthesia resident should do before graduating.
Yes. So, okay, I've been telling this more because it's not talked about a lot. You're going to have a few months before you actually have a job after you graduate. So have a nest egg. That's what I would say. I think I graduated August and I wasn't working until late September, early October. And we were feeling it. We were definitely feeling that financially. And you don't get the student loan money anymore. So put aside a little nest egg for after your, that little in between period.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good insight. And that's something that, I talk to my nurse anesthesia residents, and they're like, yeah, I'm getting ready to graduate, and my money's almost out. My
Yeah.
money's almost out here. Yeah.
Yeah, you start to feel it at the end. It
Yes.
does hurt at the end.
Yes. Most underrated way to stand out in this profession.
I guess the way I did it was just sort of being yourself and just getting involved and just continuously showing up without doing too much. You can be in the
Mhm.
background and just sort of be there, and you'll make friends, you'll talk to people, and it'll usually come naturally from what I've spoken with other people. That's their experience.
Yep. Yep. Be genuine. Yeah, I agree with that. Best advice you've received in anesthesia. This could be clinically, this could be, academically, professionally as you're out working.
Mhm.
Best
Yeah.
advice.
I think through clinical, the one thing I was told by multiple preceptors, I think just because I can be an anxious guy in the OR, was sometimes less is more. I think a lot of times we keep adding on therapies and going nowhere, or even causing, I don't want to say harm, but even causing, adverse offense by doing too much. You're doing too
Riding
much.
the roller coaster treat.
Exactly. You're riding the roller coaster treatment. If you stop and thought about this for a little bit, you might be able to make this a little more consistent and
Mhm.
not as crazy. So sometimes if you feel like you're a little distracted, back up. Sometimes less is more. How can we make micro changes to ensure that this anesthetic stays stable?
Yeah, and that's something personally, I really operate
Mhm.
from this perspective as less is more. Even looking at the amount of geriatric patients that we take care of, and the amount of
Mm.
polypharmacy that they come to us with,
Yeah.
couple that with days of being in the hospital, that's something that I think there's a lot to learn from that perspective, and just being patient in this profession. It's easy to react,
Yeah.
but just being
Absolutely.
patient as you're taking care of these patients. Yeah,
Yep.
that's
I
great
agree.
advice.
I agree.
I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
AANA involvement, start early or wait until later?
Yes. Depends on you. Depends on how you feel. Um, for me, it was start early, but for you, it could be different. So, just look in the mirror, tell yourself if you're actually going to be committed, or if this is just like a resume boost or something.
Sure.
I think most folks, once you're an NAR, it's like, why do you need a resume? You're already almost there. So it's, it usually isn't that. But make sure that you're actually committed and interested before you do something like that.
Hmm. Yeah. one word to describe the future of CRNAs. This is a complex one, but
Sugamidex.
Sugamidex. Sugamidex
No,
is a great drug.
Glidescope and Sugamidex. But
Yeah.
honestly, though, it's just I think revolutionary, right? We're in a time in anesthesia where for me it was like Neo and Glyco were out of vogue. Sugamidex is coming in. Like I personally, I'm gonna be honest with you, Tyler. You might not agree. I VL every single patient. I just think it's first pass success is important to me. I'm not messing around.
Yep.
If it was my mom, you're going to use a VL on her. So I video laryngoscope just about everybody. People have
And
their arguments for the Miller and how fast they are and how good the view is.
I was
Okay.
at the presentation at annual Congress. There's good literature to support that,
Yeah.
from a cost perspective, from a first time pass, perspective. Yeah. So no, I think to challenge those conventional, how we approach things, even,
Yeah.
the conversation of utilization of ultrasound, that's something within my hospital right now. Why are we placing A lines on palpation? I'm like, it's faster
No.
because I can do it.
Yeah.
But that conversation's there. And I think we need to continue to challenge that. And I think that's good perspective. Now, you mentioned Sugamidex. Now you haven't been practicing long enough to know that there used to be kind of an art to dosing your paralytic.
Oh yeah.
Especially for like aneurysm coilings and stuff. And now it's just like, well, I got Sugamidex. Here we go.
Yep. Let's push exactly. And it's so funny. One of our sites, some of the surgery centers, they still the standard is Neo and Glyco, right?
Mhm.
But there's Sugamidex available if you have good reason to use it. And I'm
Mhm.
finding more and more that I have good reason to use it, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. And I would say it to my boss too. Like I just it's what we're doing and what we have now is so like, I mean, it's revolutionary. And but I still find humility in seeing how they did it back in the day too, I suppose. But man,
Anesthesia in general, we're
yeah.
very, resistant to change.
Yes,
And I think we need the, individuals like yourself to challenge that. And I
absolutely.
hope that more, as nurse anesthesia residents graduate they continue to do the same and not kind of take things as, oh, this is the way that we do it,
Yeah.
just because that's what we've always done. Right.
Little rant, but like I've definitely heard of preceptors being like, I don't believe in Sugamidex. Or, it's like, what do you mean? It's right here. How do you not believe in it? It's right there. Or like, the Miller's superior to everything. And if you can't use a Miller, you're not a good anesthetist, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. It's like, okay, well, go palpate for a Sedilot's triangle and do a block. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah,
Right.
just
Right.
we got to be humble and we got to realize it's not like, this is not people's life. It's not to be messed with. Use the best technology you have. I'm going to want it.
Kevin, I'm going to throw you for a curveball, and I don't know if you listened to any of my other episodes. This wasn't on the outline I gave to you, but
Uh-oh.
I've been asking everybody, and when I ask it organically, you get an organic answer. But Kevin, what is special about you? What do you, as a new CRNA, or a graduated nurse anesthesia resident, what do you bring to the table that maybe some other CRNAs don't?
Yeah. So, okay, for me, man, like I know that I'm not like a whiz CRNA. I'm just not. I know I'm pretty good and I'm really safe. I just kind of have that about me where it's like I realize that I'm not the best, but I do things that kind of bring the community together. I'm hosting a happy hour for the new grads
Nice.
in a few days here, and that's not needed, but I'm doing it because I want to. I talk to people. Everyone in the OR loves me, very personable, and it makes the day go faster. And people are more likely to say their concerns because they know it's a safe environment. So I would say that I'm very personable. I'm very honest, even though I might not be, again, the most skilled or impressive CRNA out there.
I absolutely love that. And that resonates with me as well. Like I feel the same. Like I'm not the absolute, top-notch CRNA in the country, but I can connect with people and the same.
Yeah.
I think there's so much value to that. And we talk time and time again about emotional intelligence and reading the room and connecting with people. And even the best surgeons, the best CRNAs, the best anesthesiologists, if they're missing that piece,
Yeah.
how good is the team? Right.
Exactly.
And I think there's something to be said about that. It's the complete, having the complete package here in terms of, doing what's best for the patient and helping to navigate care. So don't
Yes.
discount yourself here, my friend. That is,
Yeah.
I love that. And that certainly resonates with me as well. For
Absolutely.
everyone listening, this episode isn't about just doing more. It's
Mhm.
about getting closer to this profession and understanding it at a deeper level. Because the more that you immerse yourself, the more clearly you start to see yourself in this role in being a CRNA. And Kevin, I can't thank you enough for being here today, for everything that you do within the ANA, and just continue to grow as a CRNA, and keep sharing that special part about yourself, because that is what draws everybody to this profession, and makes people feel, oh, I want to be like Kevin, that
Yeah.
guy in the operating room that treated me kind, that recognized me there, and advocated for the patient. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's always about the patient. And, I always say, I think about me when I was 15 in that hospital gurney, and I treat every patient that same way, as well as all my colleagues. This should be a safe, fun, relaxed environment. And I'm so happy to be a CRNA because we have such a role in that.
absolutely. Well, Kevin, thank you so much, and I'm sad I'm going to be missing you at mid-year assembly, but we'll have to connect at annual Congress here.
Yes, absolutely. So we
Uh,
both just said absolutely, like within 2 seconds of each other.
we had to save it for the end here.
That's awesome.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much, and take care.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler.